Throughout human history, economic progress has been marked by transformative developments that reshape the way societies interact, produce, and exchange goods and services. From the earliest forms of bartering and trade routes to the advent of modern technological innovations, the story of our economic evolution is one of continuous adaptation and innovation. In this video, we delve into key milestones that have shaped the economic landscape, from the inception of trade and the rise of mercantilism to the challenges and opportunities presented by the Internet age. Bartering, a system of trading without money, has deep roots in human history, dating back to early civilizations. While it's not the sole economic model, some cultures still rely on it today. Originally, bartering involved exchanging goods and services directly. Nowadays, with the help of the Internet, bartering has evolved into a global practice, offering more sophisticated trading opportunities. The value of items exchanged is agreed upon by the parties involved, bypassing the need for currency. Online platforms like auctions and swap markets facilitate modern bartering. Historically, bartering stretches back to 6000 BC, introduced by Mesopotamian tribes and later adopted by Phoenicians and Babylonians. It involved a wide range of goods, from food to weapons and sometimes even human skulls. Salt, highly valued, served as a common exchange item, even becoming a form of currency for Roman soldiers. In the Middle Ages, Europeans traveled to distant lands for trade, exchanging goods like crafts and furs for exotic items such as silks and perfumes. Colonial Americans engaged in bartering, swapping musket balls, deerskins, and wheat. Despite the invention of money, bartering persisted, adapting to changing times. During the Great Depression of the 1930s, bartering saw a resurgence due to a lack of money, with groups and individuals trading for essentials. Transactions were often recorded like banking transactions with credits and debits. Direct bartering faced challenges, especially when one party lacked interest in the goods or services offered. To overcome this, societies developed a standard medium of exchange that everyone desired. However, early forms of currency like cattle had limitations. They were difficult to transport over long distances and couldn't be divided easily for small transactions. Additionally, they weren't suitable for financing large endeavors like armies or taxation. Metals emerged as a more practical form of currency, shaped into ingots, rings, and other cast forms. Yet, they lacked standardization until specific weights and purity standards were applied. Lydia, in Asia Minor, played a pivotal role in the evolution of coinage around 650 BC. The need for a portable, intrinsically valuable medium of exchange led to the introduction of coins bearing inscriptions of authority. Coinage revolutionized trade, enabling large-scale transactions across vast distances. Herodotus credited the Lydians with introducing gold and silver coins, although the earliest known coins were made of electrum, a natural alloy of both metals. King Croesus of Lydia is often associated with the earliest gold and silver coinage. Despite his legendary wealth, Lydia fell to Persian forces in 546 BC, becoming a key satrapy in the Persian Empire. As countries began depending more on each other, importing what they needed and exporting surplus, the use of money became necessary. It was impractical to carry all life's essentials, so people agreed to use intrinsically valuable items like iron and silver in their transactions. Initially, the value of these items was determined by size and weight, but later, stamps were used to denote value, making transactions easier. The techniques used by the Lydians and Greeks in early coin production built upon skills of gem engravers, jewelers, and artisans of the past. While the specifics of their refining methods are unclear, they demonstrated the ability to refine and alloy metals. Silver was the primary metal used for coinage in early Greece, with gold coins minted only during crises. However, gold coins became more common, especially in Persia, before spreading to Greece. To address the need for smaller transactions, bronze coins were introduced by alloying copper with tin becoming widely used by the 4th century BC. The invention of paper money, also known as banknotes or bills, can be traced back to China's Song dynasty, following a long evolution that originated in the 3rd century BCE. Coin currency became cumbersome and devalued over time, prompting economists, philosophers, and emperors to seek alternatives. By the medieval era, the Chinese had pioneered new technologies and conceptualizations of money, leading to the creation of the world's first paper money. The Mauryan dynasty of India, the Qin dynasty of China, and the Han dynasty of China were among the earliest and most successful Asian states to adopt coined currency. Their use of coins spread throughout southern and eastern Asia, laying the groundwork for the eventual emergence of paper money. The convergence of economic ideas from the West and East occurred during late antiquity along the Silk Road, marking a significant milestone in the evolution of money. The Silk Road encompassed a network of overland and sea routes connecting East Asia with the Middle East and Europe. Its origins date back to the late 2nd century BCE and lasted until the mid-3rd century CE, facilitating the exchange of goods, ideas, and people. The states involved in the first Silk Road system included Han China, Parthian Persia, Rome, and the often overlooked Kushan Empire, whose leaders played a significant role in the evolution of coin and paper currency. While all 4 major Silk Road states used copper, bronze, gold, and silver coins, they employed different systems of weights. Although coins from Rome, Kushan, Parthian, and Han China may have appeared similar, their varying weights meant their intrinsic values differed. This posed challenges for long-distance merchants seeking to exchange coins between empires. To address this issue, Kushan rulers introduced a coin based on the Roman weight standard, simplifying currency conversion and facilitating trade across empires. Such innovative solutions influenced the late ancient and early medieval worlds, ultimately paving the way for the development of paper money and monetary standardization. As coined currency evolved in China, it had a distinct physical appearance compared to coinage elsewhere. The Han and Qin authorities introduced a standardization method called strings or guan, where 1,000 bronze coins with square holes were threaded together to form one guan, serving as the currency standard of ancient China. Although codified during the Tang dynasty, the Chinese economy moved closer to paper money during this period. The use of paper banknotes, known as flying cash, emerged in the early 800s for interprovincial transactions due to the continued use of different regional coins despite the guan standard. Initially utilized by provincial officials, flying cash later gained acceptance for merchant transactions. The transition to paper money was well underway by the time of the Song dynasty, although certain conditions still needed to be met. Emperor Taizu, ruling from 960 to 976 CE, aimed to standardize China's coin currency across all regions by phasing out regional coins and introducing the Song Yuan Tongbao, or primary circulating treasure of the Song. However, by 1080, the circulation of 5 million strings of the Song Yuan Tongbao led to excessive currency supply, exacerbated by the addition of lead to bronze coins, resulting in crippling inflation. Despite the otherwise prosperous and stable Song economy, forward-thinking leaders turned to paper money as a solution. In addition to currency devaluation, various practical and philosophical factors contributed to the adoption of paper money. The high demand for bronze, copper, and iron for weapons and tools in the expanding Song Empire led to material shortages for coin production. This shift in resource allocation prompted a reevaluation of the concept of money, viewing it less as a token of value and more as a medium for payment and exchange. Once this perspective gained acceptance, the transition to paper currency became inevitable. The transition to paper money in China owed much to technological advancements, particularly the invention of the movable type press, attributed to Bi Shen in the 1040s, coupled with existing papermaking techniques. Although no surviving samples of the earliest paper currency notes exist, contemporary texts describe their production and appearance. These notes were created through multiple impressions of red, black, and blue colors, featuring marked values and adorned with narrative scenes and symbolic emblems of the era. An intriguing aspect of early Chinese paper currency was its decentralized nature, which may have contributed to both its success and failure. During the Song dynasty, various paper currencies were issued across different regions, authorized by the emperor but administered by regional officials. The earliest known paper currency, the jiaozi in Sichuan, proved successful. However, the huizi, first issued by Guozong, the first emperor of the southern Song dynasty, emerged as the most widespread and significant. The huizi was remarkably progressive for its time, with each series featuring fixed expiration terms to combat inflation and counterfeiting. Between 1168 and 1264, Southern Song emperors issued 18 series of the huizi. Initially tied to the still-active coined currency, with one huizi equaling 1 guan, smaller denominations were later introduced to match partial strings of 200, 300, and 500 coins. Backed by silver, the value of printed notes theoretically should not have exceeded the value of the silver supply. However, Song leaders eventually printed more money than the available silver, leading to currency devaluation and inflation. During the early Song dynasty, the primary rival was the Jurchen Jin dynasty in northeastern China. The Jurchens eventually invaded Song territory, conquering northern China and forcing the Song dynasty southward. From 1127 to 1234, the Jurchens ruled northern China, maintaining cultural and economic continuity with the Song dynasty. They began issuing paper money notes in the mid-1150s, based on the Song notes initially issued in the Sichuan zone. When the Mongols conquered China and established the Yuan dynasty in 1271, they inherited and continued the use of paper money. While advances in paper currency were occurring in the East, the West was also making some innovations. The Knights Templar, a legendary Crusader military order, developed a proto-paper money system in Europe during the 13th century. Churches across Western Europe served as banks for the Templars, who provided financial services to knights and pilgrims traveling to the Holy Land during the Crusades. Pilgrims would deposit their funds at a church or Templar castle and receive a paper note in return, which they could redeem for coined currency upon reaching the Holy Land, albeit with a small service charge. Although initially avoiding charges of usury by not charging interest, the Templars faced scrutiny and were subjected to the Inquisition in 1312. While the idea of paper money temporarily faded in Europe, it likely resurfaced through contact with Mongol paper money via the Silk Road, eventually leading to its reintroduction in Europe. By the late High Middle Ages, the concept of coined and paper currency had come full circle along the Silk Road. The discovery of the New World profoundly impacted Europe's economy, driven by motives such as mercantile interests, missionary activities, and scientific curiosity. This led to the expansion of Europe's political and economic influence through the exploitation of precious metals, cheap labor, and plantation agriculture in the Americas. The influx of bullion from the New World enriched Europe and transformed its economy. The discovery brought about significant changes, including the introduction of invasive money supply, which increased purchasing power within Europe. The establishment of transatlantic trade routes allowed Europeans to transport valuable goods back to their homelands without facing tariffs or foreign attacks, further strengthening the European economy. Moreover, Europeans exploited local populations and established profitable plantations, contributing to their economic prosperity. The introduction of new species, such as the potato, boosted agricultural productivity and contributed to population growth in Europe. The flow of precious metals from the New World to Europe, particularly through the mining of silver in places like Potosi, played a crucial role in the expansion of the European economy during the era of mercantilism. Spain, in particular, capitalized on the vast silver deposits in Potosi, leveraging local labor to extract the precious metal. The Spanish crown tightly controlled the mining operations, maintaining ownership of all mines and granting leaseholds or working rights under strict contracts. The increase in money supply in Europe, courtesy of the New World mines, played a crucial role in facilitating intercontinental trade. This influx of bullion alleviated monetary constraints on exchange and production, making trade with Asia more feasible. However, it also led to inflationary conditions within Europe due to the accumulation of capital. The Latin American silver flooded the Asian market, triggering high inflation, social upheaval, and economic instability in Asia. Over time, this influx of silver led to the subjugation of the Asian economy to the European world system, paving the way for European colonization of Asia. Mercantilism emerged as a pivotal factor in reshaping intercontinental trade dynamics and establishing Europe as the economic center of the world. The control over precious metals, coupled with advancements in trade routes and economic policies, solidified Europe's dominance in global commerce. The repercussions of this economic shift were profound, leading to significant changes in social, economic, and political spheres across continents, and ultimately shaping the course of history. The Dutch East India Company, VOC, left a significant mark on both the history of Asia and the development of finance and capitalism. In Asia, the VOC's operations were centered around modern-day Jakarta in Indonesia, where it traded spices and other commodities. However, its methods were often brutal, marked by the use of force, genocide on the Banda Islands, and the exploitation of slave labor and the slave trade. On the other hand, the VOC also played a pivotal role in shaping the history of finance and capitalism. Notably, shortly after its establishment in 1602, the VOC conducted the world's first initial public offering, marking a significant milestone in financial history. The IPO, announced in the company's charter, allowed all residents of the Dutch lands to buy shares in the company, democratizing investment opportunities. Unlike previous companies that relied on private investors, the VOC's share issue was public, inviting every Dutchman to participate. This contrasted with earlier models where capital was raised from a select group of private investors associated with the company's directors. While the VOC's actions in Asia had negative repercussions, its innovative approach to finance paved the way for the development of modern capital markets. The VOC's IPO and the subsequent trading of shares by its shareholders laid the foundation for the world's first stock exchange. This shift towards public ownership and trading of shares represented a significant departure from earlier financial structures and contributed to the evolution of capitalism as we know it today. The Dutch East India Company operated under a charter granted for 21 years, a significantly longer duration compared to its predecessors, which typically lasted only 3 or 4 years. Despite this lengthy period, the company recognized that some potential investors might be hesitant to commit their funds for such a prolonged time frame. To address this concern, the charter included a provision for interim liquidation after 10 years. In 1612, a general balance would be drawn up, allowing shareholders to assess the company's performance and decide whether to request their investment back. However, the directors soon realized that even 10 years might seem like a considerable commitment to investors. To provide greater flexibility, they introduced a provision allowing for the transfer of shares between investors. This innovation, stated explicitly in the Capital Subscription Register, enabled shareholders to sell their shares before the designated 10-year period. The process for transferring shares involved presenting oneself to the Chamber's bookkeeper, obtaining approval from 2 directors, and recording the transaction in a special register. This provision marked a significant departure from previous practices, as it formalized the ability to trade shares and provided investors with greater liquidity and flexibility in managing their investments. By allowing for the transfer of shares, the VOC facilitated a more dynamic market for its securities, contributing to the development of early capital markets and setting a precedent for future financial institutions. The financial impact of the Dutch East India Company was profound and far-reaching, with over 1,100 individuals contributing approximately $300,000 each in today's dollars. The VOC spread risk in a manner unprecedented for its time. This substantial capital allowed the company to undertake ventures and initiatives previously unattainable, propelling it to rapid growth and dominance in global commerce for over a century. The VOC's success was primarily driven by its trade in goods such as pepper and nutmeg, which were highly prized commodities with enduring value. Pepper, in particular, served not only as a valuable commodity but also as a symbol of wealth and prestige, often surpassing the value of many modern currencies. Despite engaging in imperialist acts and maintaining armies, the economic impact of the VOC remains a subject worthy of study. As one of the largest companies of its time, the VOC diversified its interests across various industries, including the lucrative tulip trade, which experienced booms and busts in the decades following the company's inception. Over time, the VOC's economic footprint grew to exceed that of several of the world's largest contemporary companies combined. The VOC's innovative approach to risk-sharing and trading forever altered the landscape of capital and business. By pioneering new methods of investment and risk management, such as the issuance of tradable agreements, the VOC laid the groundwork for modern financial markets and revolutionized the way businesses operate. The idea of spreading risk among more than one investor was revolutionary. Thousands of companies followed the model of VOC. It seems normal now, but it was an amazing innovation and remains a fundamental part of global economics. Even small startups now rely on funding methods similar to what was first created in 1602. Adam Smith, an 18th-century Scottish economist, philosopher, and author, is revered as the father of modern economics. He vehemently opposed mercantilism and advocated for laissez-faire economic policies. In his seminal work, The Theory of Moral Sentiments, Smith introduced the concept of the invisible hand, a phenomenon wherein free markets regulate themselves through the forces of competition, supply and demand, and self-interest. Smith's contributions to economics extend beyond the invisible hand. He is credited with conceptualizing gross domestic product and developing the theory of compensating wage differentials. According to this theory, hazardous or undesirable occupations often offer higher wages to incentivize workers to fill these roles. However, Smith's most enduring legacy lies in his magnum opus, An Inquiry into the Nature and Causes of the Wealth of Nations, published in 1776. This seminal work remains one of the most influential texts in economics, shaping our understanding of markets, trade, and economic policy. In The Wealth of Nations, Smith propagated ideas that laid the foundation for classical economics, which became the dominant school of economic thought up to the Great Depression. His influence reverberated through subsequent generations of economists, including David Ricardo, Karl Marx, John Maynard Keynes, and Milton Friedman, each building upon Smith's theories to shape economic discourse in their respective eras. Smith's magnum opus also delved into the evolutionary trajectory of human society, tracing its development from primitive hunter-gatherer societies to the establishment of feudal systems and, ultimately, to modern laissez-faire economies characterized by free markets and institutional frameworks facilitating market transactions. Central to Smith's exploration is the concept of the economic man, a rational actor driven by self-interest, whose behaviors significantly influence economic dynamics. The philosophy of free markets champions the idea of minimizing government intervention and taxation within economic systems. While Adam Smith advocated for a limited role of government, he recognized its responsibility in overseeing crucial sectors such as education and defense. Central to Smith's economic philosophy is the concept of the invisible hand, which symbolizes the self-regulating nature of free markets. According to Smith's theory of the invisible hand, individuals pursuing their self-interest inadvertently contribute to the overall welfare of society. In a hypothetical scenario featuring a butcher, brewer, and baker, each aims to profit by providing goods and services that satisfy consumer demands. Through their pursuit of profit, they inadvertently stimulate economic activity and generate wealth not only for themselves but for the nation as a whole. However, Smith recognized the necessity of an institutional framework to ensure the smooth functioning of free markets. Institutions such as a robust justice system safeguard against fraud and monopolistic practices, promoting fair competition. Smith believed that competition was inherent in human nature, persisting from birth to death, and viewed it as a driving force behind economic progress. Of Nations, Adam Smith's seminal work, introduced groundbreaking concepts that revolutionized economic thought and practices worldwide. Among these ideas was the transition from traditional land-based wealth to a new paradigm centered on assembly line production methods facilitated by the division of labor. Smith vividly illustrated this transformation using the example of pin manufacturing. In his illustration, Smith depicted how the division of labor could dramatically increase productivity. While a single individual undertaking all 18 steps of pin production could only produce a limited quantity per week, dividing these tasks among 10 workers working in tandem could yield thousands of pins within the same time frame. This principle, according to Smith, underscored the immense prosperity generated by specialization and the division of labor. Furthermore, the Wealth of Nations laid the groundwork for the concept of gross domestic product, GDP, and reshaped the landscape of international trade. Prior to Smith's insights, nations primarily measured their wealth based on the value of their precious metal reserves, such as gold and silver. However, Smith challenged this perspective, critiquing mercantilist ideologies and advocating for an evaluation based on production and commerce levels instead. Smith's emphasis on production and commerce as the true indicators of a nation's prosperity spurred the development of the GDP metric. This metric, now widely used, quantifies a country's economic output and growth, providing a more comprehensive measure of its wealth. Moreover, the Wealth of Nations prompted a fundamental shift in attitudes toward international trade. Smith argued fervently for the promotion of free exchange, contending that both trading partners stand to benefit from such transactions. His advocacy for liberal trade policies led to increased imports and exports as countries embraced the principles of free trade. In line with his beliefs, Smith advocated for legislative measures aimed at facilitating and streamlining trade processes, emphasizing the importance of removing barriers to commerce. By championing the ideals of free exchange and productive specialization, Smith's work laid the groundwork for a new era of economic prosperity and international cooperation. The Industrial Revolution stands as a transformative period in human history, marking a shift from agrarian societies to industrialized economies fueled by mechanization and innovation. Originating in Great Britain during the mid-18th century, its impact reverberated globally, reshaping not only economic structures, but also societal norms and urban landscapes. Indeed, the advent of factory systems during this era played a pivotal role in shaping capitalism and laying the foundation for modern urban centers. Prior to the Industrial Revolution, the majority of individuals relied on agriculture for their livelihoods, residing in rural communities where farming was the primary occupation. However, the emergence of factories in urban areas during the 18th century presented new employment opportunities. Despite often harsh working conditions and meager wages, factory employment offered a viable alternative to traditional farming, providing a means to earn a living wage. Central to the Industrial Revolution was the advancement of production efficiency, driven by groundbreaking inventions such as the steam engine. The introduction of the steam engine revolutionized manufacturing processes, significantly reducing production times and costs. This newfound efficiency not only accelerated the pace of production, but also contributed to the reduction of product prices, making goods more accessible to a broader spectrum of consumers. Moreover, the Industrial Revolution unfolded hand in hand with the rise of capitalist economies. Capitalist principles incentivized business owners, or capitalists, to centralize labor in factories and implement division of labor strategies to enhance productivity and profitability. This departure from traditional craft and guild systems marked a significant shift, as capitalist production fostered an environment conducive to rapid technological innovation and change. The Industrial Revolution ushered in a surge in employment opportunities, offering higher wages compared to traditional farming occupations. As factories proliferated, the demand for managers and workers soared, expanding the labor market and elevating overall wages. The concentration of factories near urban centers attracted a mass migration of people seeking employment, prompting rapid urbanization and necessitating advancements in city planning to accommodate the burgeoning population. Furthermore, the era of innovation spurred by the Industrial Revolution yielded remarkable technological breakthroughs that continue to shape modern society. Inventions such as the sewing machine, X-ray, light bulb, calculator, and anesthesia emerged as transformative developments with enduring impacts on various facets of daily life. These innovations not only revolutionized industries but also contributed to higher levels of education and skill development, fostering a culture of innovation and progress. Despite the transformative impact of the Industrial Revolution, it also highlighted glaring disparities in living and working conditions. While technological advancements brought comfort and convenience to many, the harsh realities of factory life underscored the need for improved labor conditions and fair wages. The emergence of labor unions and advocacy groups reflected growing discontent among workers, leading to concerted efforts to address issues such as workplace safety, fair wages, and labor rights. Thomas Malthus and Karl Marx, two influential figures in the field of economics, offered critical perspectives on Adam Smith's seminal work. Malthus, a prominent economist of the late 18th and early 19th centuries, expressed concerns about the implications of emergent capitalism and the challenges posed by population growth following the French Revolution. Alongside renowned contemporaries such as Jean-Baptiste Say, David Ricardo, and John Stuart Mill, Malthus grappled with the dynamics of a burgeoning middle class and the pressures it exerted on societal structures. Malthus famously posited that population growth would inevitably outstrip the food supply, leading to widespread scarcity and social upheaval. However, history proved his predictions wrong, as technological advancements enabled agricultural production to keep pace with demographic expansion. Despite this inaccuracy, Malthus's work played a pivotal role in shifting the focus of economics towards the concept of scarcity, highlighting the finite nature of resources and the challenges of resource allocation in a growing population. Karl Marx advanced a more radical critique of capitalism, viewing the means of production as the central determinant of economic relations. Marx's analysis went beyond Malthus's concerns and delved into the structural inequalities inherent in capitalist societies. He argued that capitalism inherently bred class conflict due to its exploitative nature, foreseeing a future marked by social upheaval and revolution. Marx's theories fundamentally challenged the prevailing notions of economic organization and societal structure, advocating for a fundamental restructuring of the economic system to address inherent injustices and inequalities. His ideas resonated deeply with segments of society disillusioned with the inequities of capitalism, laying the groundwork for socialist and communist movements around the world. The gold standard, a monetary system where a country's currency is directly tied to gold, has played a significant role in shaping global economic policies and trade relations throughout history. Under this system, countries agree to convert their paper currency into a fixed amount of gold, establishing a clear link between the value of currency and the precious metal. This fixed price for gold serves as the basis for determining the value of the country's currency. The adoption of the gold standard by England in 1821 marked a pivotal moment in the history of monetary systems. As the first country to officially embrace this system, England set the stage for its widespread adoption by other nations. The 19th century witnessed a surge in global trade and production, leading to substantial discoveries of gold that bolstered the stability of the gold standard. The establishment of the International Gold Standard in 1871, following Germany's adoption, further solidified the system's prominence on the global stage. By the turn of the 20th century, the majority of developed nations had embraced the gold standard, underscoring its widespread acceptance and influence in shaping economic policies. Ironically, the United States, despite its economic might, was one of the last countries to fully adopt the gold standard. Throughout the 19th century, a powerful silver lobby within the U.S. hindered the transition to a gold-based monetary system. From 1871 to 1914, the gold standard reached its zenith, with many countries including Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and India embracing its principles. This era was characterized by relative political stability among nations adhering to the gold standard. However, the outbreak of the Great War in 1914 marked a turning point for the gold standard. The exigencies of war necessitated unprecedented government interventions in monetary policies, leading to the suspension of the gold standard in many countries. The ensuing economic turmoil and geopolitical upheaval ushered in a period of uncertainty and re-evaluation of traditional monetary systems. Despite the growing doubts surrounding the viability of the gold standard, there persisted a nostalgic longing to return to its perceived stability and prosperity. However, the dwindling supply of gold relative to the expanding global economy prompted the British pound sterling and US dollar to emerge as the predominant reserve currencies. Smaller nations began accumulating these currencies in lieu of gold, leading to a concentration of gold reserves in the hands of a select few powerful nations. The aftermath of the stock market crash of 1929 further strained the international financial system, exacerbating existing disparities and vulnerabilities. Misalignments in currency values, war debts, collapsing commodity prices, and overextended banks compounded the economic challenges facing nations worldwide. In a bid to safeguard their dwindling gold reserves, many countries raised interest rates to deter investors from converting deposits into gold, inadvertently exacerbating the economic downturn. The suspension of the gold standard by England in 1931 marked a significant turning point, leaving only the United States and France with substantial gold reserves. Subsequently, the U.S. government undertook a bold measure in 1934 by revaluing gold from $20.67 per ounce to $1.35 per ounce, effectively devaluing the dollar and stimulating the economy. This move allowed other nations to convert their gold holdings into more U.S. dollars, resulting in a dramatic increase in gold conversion and positioning the U.S. to dominate the gold market. The revaluation of gold and the subsequent surge in gold production propelled by U.S. policies signaled a profound transformation in the global monetary landscape. By 1939, the world witnessed a substantial increase in gold reserves, surpassing the amount necessary to replace all global currency in circulation. This pivotal moment marked the culmination of efforts to navigate the challenges posed by the gold standard and set the stage for a new era in international finance. The Great Depression, a profound and protracted worldwide economic downturn that commenced in 1929 and endured until approximately 1939, stands as a defining moment in modern history. Originating in the United States, the Great Depression rippled across the globe, precipitating unparalleled declines in output, widespread unemployment, and acute deflation. Its impact transcended mere economic consequences, profoundly altering societal structures and cultural norms, particularly in the United States, where it constituted the most severe hardship since the Civil War. Perhaps the most devastating aspect of the Great Depression was the pervasive human suffering it inflicted. Within a remarkably short span, global output and living standards plummeted precipitously, with up to a quarter of the labor force in industrialized nations facing unemployment by the early 1930s. While signs of improvement emerged by the mid-1930s, complete recovery remained elusive until the decade's end, leaving an indelible mark on generations. Moreover, the Great Depression prompted significant transformations in economic institutions, macroeconomic policies, and economic theory worldwide. Its enduring legacy reshaped the global economy in profound ways, most notably hastening the demise of the international gold standard. Though efforts to reinstate fixed currency exchange rates after World War II through the Bretton Woods system were made, the conviction and enthusiasm that characterized adherence to the gold standard were never fully revived. By 1973, fixed exchange rates gave way to floating rates, marking a paradigm shift in international monetary policy. The 1930s witnessed a significant expansion in both labor unions and the welfare state, fueled by the tumultuous economic conditions of the era. In the United States, the ranks of labor unions swelled, more than doubling between 1930 and 1940. This surge was propelled by rampant unemployment during the Great Depression and bolstered by the enactment of the National Labor Relations Wagner Act in 1935, which empowered collective bargaining. Simultaneously, the United States took decisive steps to address the social and economic fallout of the Depression by enacting landmark legislation. The Social Security Act of 1935 established unemployment compensation and old age and survivors insurance, providing a safety net for vulnerable citizens amid economic uncertainty. Beyond the United States, many nations embraced increased government intervention in the economy, particularly in regulating financial markets, in response to the economic upheaval of the 1930s. Notably, the United States established the Securities and Exchange Commission in 1934 to oversee stock market activities and enhance market transparency. Moreover, the Great Depression served as a catalyst for the development of macroeconomic policies aimed at managing economic fluctuations. The prevailing belief in the efficacy of reduced spending and monetary contraction during the Depression prompted British economist John Maynard Keynes to formulate his seminal General Theory of Employment, Interest, and Money in 1936. Keynesian economics advocated for government intervention through increased spending, tax cuts, and monetary expansion to counteract economic downturns, a departure from laissez-faire principles. In 1944, representatives from 44 nations convened in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, to forge a new international monetary framework known as the Bretton Woods system. The primary objectives of this system were to ensure exchange rate stability, curb competitive devaluations, and foster economic growth. Although the Bretton Woods system was conceptualized during this conference, it wasn't until 1958 that it became fully operational. Under the Bretton Woods system, countries settled their international transactions in US dollars, which were redeemable for gold at a fixed exchange rate of $35 per ounce, guaranteed by the US government. This arrangement effectively pegged other currencies to the dollar, with the United States assuming the responsibility of backing every dollar with gold. Initially, the Bretton Woods system functioned smoothly, particularly in the aftermath of World War II. With the implementation of initiatives like the Marshall Plan, war-torn nations such as Japan and those in Europe embarked on extensive reconstruction efforts. Concurrently, countries outside the United States sought dollars to finance imports of American goods, including automobiles, steel, and machinery. The robust gold reserves held by the U.S., which accounted for over half of the world's official gold reserves at the end of World War II, lent further stability to the system. However, by the 1950s and 1960s, the dynamics began to shift. As Germany and Japan experienced remarkable economic recoveries, the United States saw its share of global economic output decline significantly, from 35% to 27%. Moreover, mounting expenditures associated with the Vietnam War, coupled with burgeoning public debt, exacerbated the U.S.'s negative balance of payments. Concurrently, the Federal Reserve's monetary policies led to inflationary pressures, contributing to the overvaluation of the dollar throughout the 1960s. In the 1960s, the Bretton Woods system faced mounting challenges due to a global surplus of dollars. The United States found itself in a precarious position, as it lacked sufficient gold reserves to back the volume of dollars circulating worldwide, resulting in an overvaluation of the dollar. Despite attempts by the Kennedy and Johnson administrations to bolster the dollar and the Bretton Woods system by discouraging foreign investment and reforming international monetary policies, these efforts proved ineffective. As anxiety spread throughout the foreign exchange market, foreign traders grew increasingly apprehensive about a potential devaluation of the dollar. Consequently, they began offloading USD in larger quantities and more frequently, sparking several runs on the dollar. Faced with mounting pressure, President Nixon opted to chart a new economic course for the country. Nixon's decision to dismantle the Bretton Woods system involved instructing the Treasury Secretary to suspend, with certain exceptions, the convertibility of the dollar into gold or other reserve assets. Additionally, he ordered the closure of the gold window, effectively halting foreign governments' ability to exchange their dollars for gold. Initially, Nixon's economic policies were hailed as a political triumph. However, their long-term ramifications remain a subject of scholarly debate. One immediate consequence of Nixon's actions was the stagflation of the 1970s, characterized by stagnant economic growth and high inflation. Moreover, the shift to floating currencies led to increased volatility, with the US dollar depreciating by a third during the 1970s. Despite these challenges, the transition to a system of mostly free-floating, market-traded currencies has brought certain benefits. In the present-day monetary landscape, central banks wield greater control over their nation's currencies and have enhanced flexibility in managing variables such as interest rates and money supply. This flexibility enables central banks to implement bold monetary policy measures when necessary. However, Nixon's decision also introduced uncertainties and spurred the growth of a massive financial market centered on hedging against currency risks, underscoring the complex and multifaceted nature of economic policy decisions. The Internet, often hailed as a network of networks, has undeniably transformed global communication, media, and commerce since its emergence in the United States in the 1970s. However, it wasn't until the early 1990s that the Internet became widely accessible to the general public. Fast forward to 2020, and approximately 4.5 billion people, representing over half of the world's population, were estimated to have Internet access, a figure that continues to grow rapidly thanks to the proliferation of smart technology and the Internet of Things. At its core, the Internet's most significant attribute lies in its ability to swiftly, conveniently, and inexpensively transmit information. Everyday transactions, ranging from payments to financial data processing, have become more cost-effective through web-based technology. Industries reliant on data, such as financial services and healthcare, have particularly benefited from reduced production costs facilitated by Internet usage. Moreover, the Internet serves as a powerful management tool with vast potential to enhance efficiency across various sectors of the economy. Through web-based technology, businesses can streamline supply chain management, leading to inventory reduction and improved scheduling. These efficiency gains manifest internally within firms, as well as in interactions with external partners along the supply chain. Another hallmark of the Internet revolution is its role in fostering competitiveness within the global economic landscape. With online platforms offering transparent pricing for goods and services, consumers can shop around for the best deals across geographic boundaries, while sellers gain access to a broader customer base. This phenomenon brings markets closer to the ideal of perfect competition, characterized by abundant buyers and sellers transacting with perfect information. As a result, we witness reduced profit margins, enhanced production efficiency, and heightened consumer satisfaction. a testament to the transformative power of the Internet on economic dynamics.